This video is for people who have yet to see me for the first time, and it's really just designed to alleviate some of your fears or worries before you see me for the first time. I've asked of my clients who have very kindly given me permission to show this video, their individual videos to you, to enable you to see what it's like before you actually see me, their perspective, their point of view, and what they experienced during the hypnotherapy sessions, how it felt for them, and what they've gained out of it. So I hope you're going to enjoy this feedback from these people who have very kindly given us permission to listen to their story and what they've experienced. Thank you. The next video is of a lady who had her first session, and this was recorded directly after the first session. So you see what she experienced after that very first session and how she felt. And it was very nice of her to give us permission to show this video to people about her experiences after the first session. So thank you very much. Are you feeling there's a bit more space in your thoughts, feeling a bit more real, a bit more in the room?
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it weird being a bit more clear? Does things look a bit clearer and brighter? Notice at all?
Yes, better, much better.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Trippy. Good.
Yeah. Now you try and explain what you just experienced to someone else. And that is why I always say to people, please have your first session and then you can ask the questions. So I'm making a series of recordings on videos of people's first session and their response to it. So if you were going to speak to yourself at this moment, and say now what you're feeling now, an hour later, what would you have told yourself to alleviate your fears and say, because I'm really worried and, oh God, what's going to happen? Is he going to, control my mind, or is it going to be really scary? So what would you now tell yourself if you could go back just, 2 or 3 hours and explain what you're feeling now after your first session?
My worries were uncalled for. It was an actual peaceful experience, a calming experience, and I feel lighter for it. And it's a bit surreal.
Yeah, and it wasn't heavy, was it? It wasn't a nasty. No, and you notice that when you started feeling uncomfortable, we stopped it straight away.
Yeah.
Because we put everything in place beforehand and created a special place with a special automatic button to take you there.
Correct.
So as soon as you started feeling uncomfortable, we stopped it and then took you back. Yeah. And that was for about 20 seconds.
If that, exactly. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And there was also giggles and laughter, wasn't there?
Correct.
Yeah, which you didn't expect that to happen during the
no.
Lots of laughter. So that's what we like. Yeah. So, if I edited this little bit of recording and I asked to check it through, maybe you'd give us permission or not to let other people see it before their first session, because they get very worried, just like you did. And it might help them to not cancel, because a lot of people think, I can't do this. I'm too something. I'm not in the right place for this. I'm just too stressed. I'm too depressed to cope. That's and then they cancel and then they're left on their own again. So that's what I'm trying to accumulate these recordings for.
I completely understand, but I would highly recommend you face the fear, do it anyway, as it were, and do it, because I feel much better from doing it. And that's just one session.
That's all we can say.
More and more.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. As I said, I'll send you that recording and ask permission if you're comfortable with letting me show it to people. Thank you. This video was recorded. It's quite a short video, I'm afraid, because we had some technical problems, but it does give you the essence of what he experienced in the work that we did up until that time. I think we're about 4 sessions in at the time. So please appreciate that this is going to be a little bit shorter than we expected.
Thank you for everything you've done for me. You have changed my life. Over 6-7 years, I haven't had the time to or the willpower to get the therapy, but I honestly say that Richard Bloom has gave me everything I need to carry on my life with my children, as you see in the photo, and everything. I'm just really happy. So thank you, Richard.
That's all right. What were you What were you feeling before we worked together?
I've been feeling really low. I feel.
Oh, we lost you. Okay. This is a young lady who was 3 sessions into her hypnotherapy experience when we had this conversation. So I hope you appreciate her feedback and that it enables you to have more confidence in the outcomes that you expect to achieve. And also the fact that it was a very enjoyable experience for her generally, and that she didn't experience any trauma, even while we were dealing with the underlying issues. Hi, we've just done some work today. If you want to explain to others what you've done, because it's private, confidential information, so it's up to you what you want to say at this point. Do you want to explain what we did today? And if you want to explain why, it's up to you. But just generally, how you're feeling from before we started and at the end of this session.
So like before, like we even done it, like
when we started today, before and maybe what's happened. This is now our 3rd session, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what do you think you've gained over the last 3 sessions?
I have noticed that I've been a lot calmer. My anxiety has reduced as well. So, and before because I have trouble with going out, now that when I feel like I'm going to have a panic attack, I don't have panic attacks anymore. Well, as much.
How long have you been having panic attacks, would you say?
About 4 years.
So for 4 years, been having panic attacks, and then within 2 to 3 sessions, they've, would you say, gone by half or more?
Yeah. They have like gone down a lot more. I mean, before, like we've done any sessions, I used to have panic attacks like every hour, every minute, every day. But now it's like gone down so much and has gotten a lot better.
What would you say to someone like yourself who's having panic attacks and they're worried about seeing someone like me? What would you say to them? Is it scary what we've been doing? Would you say it's been causing you any anxiety?
Our first time, it did cause me a little bit of anxiety, and I had like loads of questions in my head. I was like, oh, do I do it? Do I not do it? There was a lot of like, oh no, I shouldn't do it really, or it's not going to work.
And now that we're 2 sessions in and you're getting used to working with me, and you're sort of expecting it to work to a degree. How's that feeling? You're trusting that it's going to get you to your goals.
But I feel like more, in a way, safer and more comfortable. I don't have the anxiety of like before we do our meetings either. Like I don't have the anxiety of like or any worries before we do it. But yeah.
So you've just had a session, and we're working on an upset. Could I say upset tummy? Would that be all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
And as you know, before we started, how's your tummy feeling, do you think?
So before, like, when my anxiety used to be high, I could feel it in my stomach. That's when my stomach would feel upset. Now it just feels normal. It feels normal than it's ever been. It feels a bit more like if weight has been lifted off of it. It just feels a lot more better. And
it's been stopping you from going out and about.
Yes.
So Wells, who was saying, we're not here for you to trust the work we've done today. It's got to prove itself.
Yeah.
But you'll notice that already you're feeling a lot calmer. So if you're like this for the next 2 to 3 weeks, it's going to give you the chance to walk out that door with more confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you want to add to that? No. Well, thank you very, very much for that. That's really appreciated. I know it's very hard to put into words what we do. Mm-hmm. Because I always say to people, could you explain what it was like? You've just had a session. What is it like? Would you say you were asleep?
It felt it. I mean, it felt like.
Did you feel like you were asleep?
Yeah, I felt like I was half awake.
But you were half awake. You weren't totally asleep.
No, I was like.
Were you awake? Could you hear what I was saying all the time?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. And if you wanted to, could you have told me to stop anytime?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and all the way through, do I always ask permission at every single stage?
Yeah.
I'm always asking permission. We always say, if you're feeling that anger, would you let it go for just 10 seconds and bring it back if you need it, so that you're always in control. It's hard to explain to people because they're so worried about being out of control.
Yeah.
Of the work we're doing. And it's the opposite. You are one in control. I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that okay to say that?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time.
It's okay.
The next video is of a gentleman who was around 4 or 5 sessions in when we made this recording. And he was experiencing some very powerful emotions before we started. And so he achieved his goals in around that time. And he talks about his personal experiences and how he felt through the process. So I hope you enjoy this video.
I was a bit anxious about the kind of hypnosis side of it.
What was going through your head? What was the things that were putting you off? The thing, that would put anyone else off seeing a hypnotherapist as opposed to a counselor or someone else?
I think it's, I suppose, almost kind of things that go through your head is, well, is this real?
You see things on TV and cartoons and films.
Yeah, of course, you see different things. You kind of think it's not about that really. I think it's the biggest thing is just getting yourself into that relaxed space. And once you're in that, again, I think you're in control the whole time.
Did you find that you remembered most of it or everything? The process. Was there anything that I
can kind of run through what's actually gone on during the session. It's kind of you're present for the whole thing. You're conscious, present for that whole.
Do you think that nothing's happening?
Session. Yeah, at first you kind of like, oh yeah, went through this. It's great. And then it isn't until a day or two later when you go, actually, where have those negative feelings gone? Where it just disappeared, and it kind of clicked, and that's when that's happened during that session. It's taken a couple of days for my brain to kind of pick up on it.
How many sessions did you think you experienced before you started feeling some sort of positive change?
I think probably by the first session, it was kind of getting into it. Yeah, I think by kind of session 2, I was really starting to see a positive impact of it, and then kind of more improvement every single session. But I think the first session, was getting into it, understanding what it's about.
Was it frightening, or was there any point in time you felt out, like I was asking you to do something you didn't want to do at any stage?
No, it was in my head. I know what we're kind of getting at.
Yeah,
subconscious knows what we're getting at.
Yeah,
but we're not reliving it.
No, you're not reliving, and that's a lot of people worried about reliving experiences. And I keep you in a safe place. In your case, it was by the coast and at a beautiful beach, rather than you. And even while we're dealing with those events that are affecting you, you remain completely calm. That's what I explained to people. Is that how you felt?
Yeah, I think there's probably small moments where I kind of feel myself. It's quite intense.
Mm-hmm.
Not reliving, but it's intense. But then you kind of generally feel like if I am going down that, I'll feel like I'm being brought back onto track, and what you're saying will bring me back onto the right track. So I'm again back in that calm space again.
Right.
Rather than just kind of let to go.
One of the big things that I always do is ask permission at every stage. Did you notice that at all? That I was always asking, would you give me permission?
it's like you're in full control of it, but you're being guided at the same time. I think that's probably the easiest way to describe it. From kind of
So
doing the sessions.
what would you say to someone who's really anxious about hypnosis and hypnotherapy as opposed to counselling that you would have liked to have known before you made that appointment? Is there one thing that you'd give them some idea, advice?
I think just kind of approach it with an open mind. It is something different to what I expected. My first time doing it, I was kind of had these thoughts in my head. Well, actually, is this going to lead anyway? Where? But you know what? Let's give it a go. If we're talking about things that may have caused kind of trauma or things like that, I know what we're talking about in my head, but I'm not reliving it. I'm just kind of it's something that's there, and we're working past it.
And one of the things that people don't have difficulty understanding is that their subconscious actually talks back when I'm asking the questions. I know that's a difficult area to explain to someone who hasn't any idea what compared to counselling and chatting to someone, but we're getting your subconscious actually answer back. Did you notice that? Did you feel that?
Yeah, I feel again, kind of when giving answers and things like that, I'm not even thinking about it. It's just I'll notice it. So I kind of felt what was going on. I'm consciously aware of what's going on, but I'm not. It's almost like not having to give my brain any prompt to do that.
Because people are worried about talking about their personal experiences and talking. There isn't any talking involved when it comes to going through it. We get just yeses and nos without any more information. Pretty much, we do everything on yeses and nos.
Yeah, that's it. There's no kind of deep conversation.
If you don't want to talk, it's a good therapy for you.
Yeah, it's ideal. I think people should just go into it with an open mind. Something I'm really glad I did.
Yeah,
short period of time, it's had a huge impact. What's the worst that can happen? And it was a good decision.
Thank you very much.
So no, thank you. I do really appreciate the change.
This last video is of a lady who experienced a substantial post-traumatic stress event, and she was very kind to give us this summary of her experiences after only 3 sessions. The first part of the video is a still picture, as there was a technical problem with the video itself, but later on the video does kick in after about 2 or 3 minutes. So I hope you appreciate this young lady's candidness and her feedback of her personal experience of hypnotherapy. Thank you. If you were talking to yourself from about wherever it was, a month or so ago, what would you be saying to her to enable her to feel more confident in booking that first appointment? What would you want to say to her?
I think just do it. All the worries that you have, write them down, and then see if you still have them afterwards. It's the best. Is the best way, because I don't know. I can't really put it into words, but just go for it and see what you've got to lose, because the chances are that you're not going to lose anything from it, and you're going to gain things from it.
Was the process for you scary?
It was a little bit, I think it was a little bit scary, and I was a bit more, not in a bad way, but a bit more skeptical that it was actually going to work, sort of thing. I was a bit like, if it doesn't work, then it's just I've wasted money and stuff, wasted time. But until you do it, you don't know. And then actually, when I did it and I found it really beneficial, then I thought, I might as well. And then I've done more and more, and I just feel amazing that I've done it. It's really good.
Yeah. So if you were going to compare the way you were, we're talking to people who've never heard it or spoken to you before, but if you're going to explain where you were before to where you are now, in how many sessions? Let's have a look. This is the third session. Yeah. How do you feel in 3 sessions? What do you feel what you've gained in 3 sessions so far?
I think I've gained a new way of life, really, a new lease of life. I think before I was really just depressed, just sort of done in, just not really motivated. I didn't really want to do anything. I didn't have any hope, really. I've had it'd been a long time that I'd felt like this, sort of on and off, and I was a bit sort of done with everything. And then, yeah, in 3 sessions, not even, it's been a couple of months even, and I just feel like a whole new person. I feel like I've got this more understanding of what life is, I think, for me, and how it's more about me enjoying it now rather than worrying about anything else. And that's really, yeah, I think that's really helped me to sort of understand myself and what I want more. Yeah, the problems just sort of go from then, I think.
Do you feel, I mean, we were talking a lot about worry. Worry is a big thing for many people. They can't sleep. They can't, they're anxious and worried. How's that been for you? That journey with working with the worry and those feelings of confidence?
Yeah, it's helped me. I was really worried all the time. I was really anxious all the time. I had no confidence whatsoever. And yeah, now I still have sort of some worries in my mind, but they don't affect me. And I've sort of had a new approach to be like, yeah, well, we'll see if that does turn out that way, or just the belief in myself that even if it does turn out that way, then I can deal with it. It's not going to be the end of the world.
Yeah, I mean, you've been using supporting self-management techniques, you might call them, yeah. So yeah, to manage your thoughts. And we were talking before about how that's changed. Could you explain to yourself for the past how you feel now about how you can still use whatever you want to use, but you decide rather than you need those management systems, if you know what I mean, those ways of managing your thoughts.
Yeah, so yeah, like I've quite often struggled with like before, my whole life really struggled with smoking weed and stuff. I've always felt like I've needed it. It's sort of a release for me. And yeah, I've smoked it every day probably for the last 3 years, non-stop of my life. And yeah, in these last 3 sessions, I've managed to not smoke it. I don't need it. If I want to do it and enjoy it, I can, and I do, because it is my choice at the end of the day. But I don't feel like I need it anymore, and I feel like I can make them decisions easier about what I do need and what is helpful for me, I think. Yeah.
Brilliant. And you went through a personal tragedy when you were younger, and when quite an upsetting trauma. How do you feel about that trauma now after these 3 sessions?
I've sort of managed to deal with the trauma side of things and the assault side of things, but I really did always carry it around, and I just couldn't let it go. And it was mainly more the feelings of guilt, which we worked on, that I felt guilty about it. And I also had a lot of anger towards the situation. And it's just, I think I've managed to realise that the anger I have the right to be angry, and that's okay, but it's not beneficial for me. So I need to let go of it. And that's what you've helped me to do, really, is to be like, yeah, that it's okay to have that feeling, and understand why we have them feelings, but actually it's not helpful for me. And it is, and I think I almost was a bit skeptical about letting things go, because you don't want to seem like, oh yeah, I'm just going to let go and forget about it.
Because the anger protects you, doesn't it? The anger protects you. You think it protects you.
Yeah, I've always thought that all the time, and I've lived in this little bubble of thinking that the anger around everything has protected me from the situation, but it hadn't. And now I sort of have let go, and I've been able to move on for my sake, not anybody else. I just feel like I understand myself just more, and I don't know, I can't thank you enough how much you've done in this short space of time. It's just given me like a new wave of, yeah.
And also, we taught you a little bit of some techniques to work with yourself, so you're a bit more, get that.
I know, yeah, that is really good, yeah, and I think, yeah, when I'll use them.
Good.
For the rest of my life, probably, yeah. So, yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you very much for that. So that cut off was a bit abrupt there, but you can appreciate that. Well, that was a very impromptu session and review, and we just talked about how she's now feeling compared to how she was feeling only 3 sessions earlier, about 4 weeks ago. So she was able to express those changes very well indeed. And thank you very much for saying that. And I hope that anyone listening to this would appreciate that they could also feel a substantial positive change in just 3 to 5 1-hour sessions. Thank you very much.